Welcome to the Accelerate Campfire. I'm Lyndon Bowen, and today I'm joined by an amazing entrepreneur. I truly hope you enjoy hearing their experiences and life path. Listen in. Ryan Wilson is the CEO and co founder of The Gathering Spot, a private membership club for professionals that serves as a hub for collaborations, connections, and experiences. TGS is committed to curating a diverse community of people, from entrepreneurs to venture capitalists to artists and to politicians, all under one roof. Ryan is also the co-owner of A3C, a conference and festival surrounding music, tech, and film that takes place in Atlanta each year. Founded in 2005, A3C continues to be a stable institution in the hip hop community. Guys, without a further ado, please give a warm welcome to Ryan. So happy to have you here, Ryan. I know we met a long time ago, and we were looking for guests, I was like, Ryan's just a guy. He's tapped into the community, and he does a lot of work. So I'm very happy to have you here, guys. Ryan's a great person. So thank you a lot, Ryan, for being here.
But
Yeah,
I'm glad to be here. Sincerely, I appreciate the invitation and looking forward to a good conversation.
um, and this is saying that you're a power player. Yeah, so you're getting a lot of props here.
I appreciate the support. We wouldn't be having this conversation without the support of a ton of people.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
sincerely.
I think something that a lot of our community members have said over and over again is that it really is about a community, right? It's a group of people pulling together and making something happen. It's a village. So definitely concur with that. So one of the first questions that the audience has voted on here for you, Ryan, is how did where you grew up influence you today?
So I grew up all over the country for a while. I was born in Los Angeles, moved to a bunch of different states between Maryland and New Jersey, and did a brief stint in North Carolina, and so I eventually settled in Atlanta. And what was interesting about the city at that time is that, and I still think this to a certain extent, it was an emerging city, right? Atlanta just had the Olympics and was really trying to find its footing on an international stage, while at the same time beginning this shift into driving culture in a way that I hope we have a chance to talk about later. And so I'm growing up watching artists and businesses that we all know now really be in transition, and it let me know from an early days that like this was a city of possibility, and it was also a place that I could root um, really anything that I wanted to do and grow. And so Atlanta taught me that it's okay to be from places sometimes that folks underestimate, and that
Hmm.
a lot of times the things that you're making in those communities and what you're talking about, those will oftentimes become the things that are the trends later.
And could you kind of talk a bit about like how that impacted you in building the gathering spot? Like, was your first location in Atlanta? I know you have some
Yeah.
locations across the country, but so what did that look like? You say coming from a being looked down or like being counted out. Like, what did that look like in you building your business?
Yeah, so I mean, I went to school in DC. I went to Georgetown for undergrad and for law school. And while I was there, there was really no anticipation of me starting a company. And also, to start there, I wanted to be an attorney for most of my life. Why we decided to build in Atlanta and to make that transition is when I looked back at what was happening at home, it really continued this trajectory that I was talking about a second ago.
Hmm.
At that point, this was 2013, you started to see that there was a legit like startup ecosystem that was in Atlanta. And then sitting next to that ecosystem, you saw like a really legit corporate community. I mean, we have the third highest concentration of Fortune 500 headquarters.
Yeah.
And sitting next to that, you had all the sports and entertainment that you could want in really any market here. And you next to that, you had a network of colleges and universities between Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Emory, Georgia Tech. There's a new talent that was being funneled. And then the thing that really drove it all home is that Atlanta, to me, exports more culture than we do anything else, right? That it is our number one export.
Yeah.
So when we thought about, and the we is my former roommate or business partner TK, thought about where we wanted to be, where suits and ties would be sitting next to t-shirts and jeans. Wanted to be in a city where that was kind of the norm, where people knew each other across traditional lines of difference, and that the city was growing. Like all of those verticals where New York is defined by finance and DC is defined by government and politics and LA is defined by Hollywood. Atlanta wasn't really defined by any of those things, and we thought that that was the best place that we could go to try a new concept. And started the plan in 2013. Didn't end up opening here until 2016, but that was the reason why we decided to come this way.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of the things that you said is pretty interesting, right? I particularly stuck with me suits and ties next to t-shirts and jeans. I think that's a quotable moment there, Ryan. I know you have a lot of them, but that's definitely a quotable moment. It was said here, guys. It was said here. But I'm particularly interesting. Like, would you say you're in the business of people or in the business of culture? Like, how would you define the
Both.
gathering spot? Mhm.
So we say we're a community, we're a private club rooted in community and culture. So both. The biggest contrast is that, well, we're not in the space business, so we build spaces, but
Mm,
the thing that we're actually fascinated with trying to figure out how to accomplish here is how to connect people. There are there's a lot of research out these days that shows that this is the loneliest generation ever. Like we're more lonely right now than we've ever been ever. And part of that, right, is that we don't have a lot of context to get to know one another post high school, post college, that facilitate the things that are special about those environments. If you think about it, it's one of the last places where you can meet people from really all over that are studying different things. There's access to space, and a lot of times thought leaders coming to pour into the community. It allows you to be in a context that, yes, you explore the things that you're interested in, but you have to be around people who are interested in other things. And then as time goes on, a lot of us matriculate into environments where we're around similarly situated folks, where, in my context, it was going to be a bunch of lawyers. And so the thing that we're trying to do here is to provide that context again, right? To know a lot of different folks, and whether it's for business or for social purposes, have a network that you're able to call on. So to do that, we engage culture in everything that we do, because that is the through line between everybody that's here.
And one of the really important questions one of our community members just kind of asked off of that through line is like, how did you see the intersection of connection? Like we talked about people, we talked about culture, we talked about Atlanta being an emerging market. How did you land on the impetus of connection, particularly?
Truly, like I was deeply inspired by and missed what happened for me in college. I mean, it's simple as that sounds. That really what was going through my mind. I found myself in a situation where I was only around a bunch of lawyers, and like that was cool for some conversations, right? But I missed being around artists. I missed being around small business owners. I missed people who were trying to find their footing in corporate America, right? Like I wanted that diversity of perspective around me, and that really was the inspiration. Really asking the question too, when I looked at a lot of the country clubs or private clubs and what those spaces were supposed to represent, not known for a ton of diversity in the private club world.
Yeah.
What is it like to build experience where those that have traditionally been tolerated at best in those environments are celebrated within the context that we're going to build? And that was the genesis of the whole thing. I mean, we jumped in believing that if we didn't follow the rules or any particular playbook of what anybody else really had done, that was going to be the best chance for success.
I mean, I think you guys have done an amazing job, and it's a truly like ambitious goal that you set out for and have achieved in like many ways. Um, like what were some of the thoughts and ideas that kept you chugging along, and maybe some of the moments where success wasn't as clear as an outcome for you?
Yesterday, I spent I spent spent a lot of time, trying to make sure that we never get too ahead of ourselves in terms of feeling like we're there. I don't know where there is,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure that I ever want to get there. I mean, my goal is to continue to talking to a friend about this last week. I think the thing that's so special about when people start companies, if you look at it from like a music context, It's like when people are producing their first album, right? And like to the extent that an artist is able to keep the same energy, not necessarily the same sound, but the same energy a lot of times that went into their first album, that's the thing that carries them through a successful career. That same push right now. Where we've produced album or two, right? But we've got to continue to keep that same energy that we had on our first album into our third, fourth, and fifth. And right, I mean, I'm as hungry as I've ever been to
Yeah.
try to continue to push this thing forward.
I mean, I particularly love your metaphor of like music, right? I'm a big music fan myself. Um, like you mentioned, like creating that energy behind the first album to hold you through. What is some advice that you would give to other entrepreneurs on defining success, right? Like I'm pretty sure you have an internal definition of success that holds you through your, let's say, your metaphor of albums, right? Moving you from the project one to project two. Um, how do you define success, and how should other entrepreneurs define success to carry them from project to project?
Promise you, I'm going to answer that question, but I want to give some color to your last question too, because I think
Hmm.
it'll help define the success question. We were like many folks on an entrepreneurial journey, absolutely positively broke. And I think it's important to name that, right? I mean, we did not have the resources, certainly in the beginning of this process. And so I felt like defeat was coming or could come. And I'll say, I think in the startup community, we get a little funny about talking about failure as if it's like some sort of unique privilege or badge of honor.
Well,
My approach was that if failure was going to find us, that I would deal with it when we got there, but I didn't obsess over it. It was hard. I mean, we went through the full journey. I mean, trying to figure out how to raise money. We were told 97 times no before the first person said yes to invest in us. Those were dark days. We had a ton of I mean, early. I mean, we weren't able to burn anything. We had to make money from the beginning, and that was all connected to really it being. I mean, it was a tough environment. Okay, so what does success look like? Success is really just the opportunity to continue to fulfill this original vision. We're not there yet, so I'm inspired every day that I get a chance to keep up the
right.
good fight. Um, how should other folks look at it? No, I mean I think that whatever idea is yours as an entrepreneur, it's uniquely yours for a reason, and you got to be chasing executing that vision. And I think that when you do, that is what I would call success. When you get to a place where the original intent, the thing that you set out to do, exists out in the world, then you're successful.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's particularly interesting. Like you're breaking away from the mold of like I'm defining success by numbers. I'm defining success by the number of investors. Like you're defining success by the original mission that you set forward to achieve, and is that mission being achieved or not? Which is, I mean, I think pretty profound, but important to like keep you pushing along. To one of Ziz's questions, was it that definition, right? You defining your success by your mission-driven business and your mission-driven insight. What kept you going on the 87th no, or the 65th no? Like Ziz is asking this question in particular, like what kept you going when you got those no's, right?
I needed to be a good steward of this assignment, right? I look at the work that I'm doing as my specific assignment. And again, I think that any idea that an entrepreneur has that they're trying to execute, that is uniquely theirs for a reason. And so just because somebody else couldn't see it didn't mean that it didn't need to exist or that I was wrong. And ultimately, look, I was spending a ton of time on this. A lot of the people that I was talking to had spent 30 seconds on it. Right. And so the idea that I was going to base the possibility of success on the opinion of a person that sure maybe had been experienced, but at the end of the day had not spent the time that I was spending on looking and analyzing and reanalyzing every aspect of the business, like I was. I mean, what do I look like, right? You've got to have deep conviction that at the end of the day, you're doing it for a reason, and that although other folks might not get it, that's okay, right? They're not the right partners for you. And I mean, no was for me protection a lot of times from people that wouldn't have been a good partner. And Appreciate those folks. I got a note from one of those people that told us no. He tweeted this actually, that essentially saying that he was sorry that he didn't see the original vision, and I'm simplifying and taking what was a very painful moment in our journey, and giving you the short version, but
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing more satisfying than getting to the other side and having those same folks that doubted you understand that it wasn't their assignment,
Right.
and ultimately, although they didn't share your vision, that there was still something there.
I mean, I particularly love your framing of the steward of the assignment, right? It's really, you know, focusing particularly on the mission, right, and what you're there to achieve. And I mean, in a way, kind of like externalizing sometimes the ownership that people have over their project, right? Like this is a calling, this is a mission that you're on. The thing that you're currently working on may just be a step in that way, right? But it's not the
Yeah, like,
entire mission itself.
I mean, like, why are you doing it if not, right? I mean, is I understand it. I only get to do life one time, right? And so, if I'm going to do this life one time, I want to do things that I'm inspired and feel led to do. And if you're in a business venture where that isn't how you feel about it, then why are you doing it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say that to be necessarily provocative, but like, what is the point? I mean, some folks would probably answer that and say, well, I'm doing it so I can make some money. Well, there's a lot of ways to make money, and entrepreneurship, um, during many parts of the process, probably is not going to feel, or statistically, isn't the best way to make a buck.
Make money, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
if that's the main goal, right?
yeah.
And I think that you need to feel led, to want to try to accomplish something, and then, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, the cash will follow.
Um, Ziz had a particular follow-up question, which kind of folds into the next question that the audience also voted on, which was kind of like, what was your biggest learning lesson? Um, but to kind of like fold off of that question to Ziz's, do you think that these individuals that were, giving you your 65th no, your 87th no, were they judging your idea on its merit, or did they see you and maybe their ideas of you when you entered the room?
I think a little bit of both, probably leaning towards a lot of it being us. I, mean, I don't know. And frankly, y'all, like, I don't even really care. I mean, at the end of the day, they said no for whatever reason they said no, for. And that wasn't really then or now my responsibility to try to figure out
Mm,
and analyze. I believe that they were missing out on a good opportunity. I believe that then, I believe it now. And, um, trying to unpack all of the different reasons why they may have, gotten there. I just didn't have time for that, right? I mean, I needed to focus on the thing that I could control, which is what we were going to do next. Realize that, this was still my assignment, and, I didn't really care at the end of the day what they felt about it. It was going to be the train was leaving the station with or without them.
they choose to be a
And
passenger
so
or not.
that was truly how I am. I think sometimes as founders talking to the investor community, we get into this weird dynamic where we're like, oh please, oh pretty please, like it's philanthropy. This isn't philanthropy. You're gonna give me money, and I'm gonna give you a return on that capital. I wouldn't be asking you for it if I didn't think that I was gonna be able to drive that return. So I don't feel like extra extra grateful that you invested in us. Right? I appreciate it on one level, but on another level, this is a transaction,
Yeah.
right? And a transaction where I believe that you're going to do well at the end of it. So let's keep that in mind, right? As we're going through this process, right? And at the end of the day, I'm going to be the person that from this moment forward is going to be working to make this whole thing a reality.
Hmm.
I don't know what your day to day is going to be like, but it's not going to be focused on this in the way that I'm about to
Right.
focus on
Right.
it. So you got to remember who's who here, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm the person that's going to drive the return. You're the person that's going to collect it. So I, I respect you, right? But like, you're going to respect me too.
Yeah.
I'm the person that's going to do well by your dollars. And, again, I think sometimes we get into this space where we're overly, I don't even know the word, just deferential to these investors,
Mm,
many of whom have not actually even built anything ever. Um, in a way that just to me does not make sense, right? If you're the person that is executing each day, carry yourself like you're that person because you are. You're making a good opportunity happen for somebody else, and like how lucky they are to be in business with you.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I think that that's the clearest delineation that I've heard thus far from our guests on like the value that the founders bring to the table. And I think that that's important that you're keeping that centered and focused. And for all the entrepreneurs here listening, I'm pretty sure this is ringing home to them, right, in their interactions with people that may have listened to their idea and not saw it through. Um, I have a follow up question for you. What was something that maybe you had to give up along your journey, to run A3C or like found the gathering spot? Like, what was something that you had to give up?
Unfortunately, I'm not proud of this, but in the early days, I gave up time with friends and family.
Mm,
Um, been a very good friend for a number of years, and it's taken getting to a different place in the business to be able to reprioritize showing up for folks that I care about. I was pretty singularly focused for a number of years in my life,
yeah.
and um, it was something that again I'm not proud of, but it was a real part of what happened.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the reality that the time has to come from somewhere, right? um, yeah. A lot of the entrepreneurs are sympathizing with you here in the chat today, like saying that it's something that they've also experienced, and some of them are not as happy about that as well.
You have to see it as a season. That's all it says. Just like you have to
Mm,
see it as a season of your life, right? I think that if you look at it as the end all be all, yeah, I mean that's where I think it's defeating. But if you understand that this is a season,
mm.
then get through this season, and then explain to folks where you where you've been, where you are, where you hope to go.
What happened? Yeah.
But that it was an important it was an important time in your life to try to actualize on something that is something that I think is again something uniquely for you to accomplish.
And I was gonna ask you, Ryan. One of is this had a follow up question for you. Like, where did your faith and your confidence come from? He's particularly interested to know. He's one of the members of our community who's very active. But he's curious to know like where the confidence in yourself and the confidence in your business, like where did that come from?
So I mean, I'll start with my faith, right, and then I mean, closely connected to that. Look, I'm not willing to do, and I'll caveat this by saying I'm not any more intelligent or any superlative that folks would want to use
Mm,
than anybody else. But at the same time, you've got to get to a place where you realize I only get a chance to do this life once, as I understand it, and I refuse to do it any smaller than you.
yeah.
And so that doesn't mean that I'm trying to take anything away from you, but as it relates to what I'm trying to get accomplished, I'm not willing to dream smaller than what you dream.
Mm,
And when I look around, I saw some folks that had some pretty big dreams. And so it's not so much uh, confidence, it's just an unwavering belief that if I only get a chance to do this thing one time, I've got to do it to the best of my ability. And I can't sit here and believe that there's something about you that is going to allow you to have access to these dreams and ultimately the reality of them um, more than me.
mm,
And it's really that simple for me.
yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a person that I put it all on the field every single day. I think when you figure out that you can get to that place every single day and you can sustain that sort of pace and that sort of intensity, then it's not confidence so much as like I've been into the war before, right? And so um, talking about it honestly, I don't have a problem with doing it because like I haven't. This isn't conceptual for me. I've been in an entrepreneurial war for almost a decade. Started working on this in 2013. So what you hear from me is more just coming from being in the battle.
This experience. This is coined you as the entrepreneurial warrior in the chat.
I mean, we're all at war. If you're
Yeah.
in business, it's war every single day, right? And I think that the thing that you have to take pride in is at a certain point when you continue to be able to be in the war, there's something special about that, right? And you've got to speak to what happened. Otherwise, like, why did it happen? Well, what's the point of getting through it if you can't at the other side acknowledge that you were able to figure something out. But that's where I am with this, right? Again, I used to look in class and I would see people with frankly less experience saying all of these like wonderful things about what they were going to go off and do in the world, and I would look at them and say like, they're cool, but like, why is that something that's not accessible to me? When I got to a place where it was like, well, absolutely not. I've got to give it a run, and if I lose, and if that doesn't happen, at least, and again, this is cliche as it sounds, at least I know that I gave it a run.
Yeah, you tried.
But the worst fear is to allow you to go off and pursue your dreams while I sit here and wonder if I should have pursued mine. So it's not an option.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan, I just want to say I think that's a perfect note to ring it more home on. Like I'm gonna after this go sit and think about that myself. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? But Ryan, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to the entrepreneurs in our community, and give over your advice and your experience, and I really appreciate it. And I think everyone here has gained a lot from the conversation. Alyssa actually dropped in here like how many of entrepreneurs have been made into a mural. So she actually dropped your mural here. That's on Instagram. It's at the chat. So entrepreneurs out there looking at you in the world, and they're admiring all the things that you're doing. So,
Thank
Ryan,
you.
thank you so
Hey,
much for joining us.
sincerely. Hey, for everybody that joined, I appreciate y'all sincerely. There's ways that we can be helpful for anything that you're building. Please let us know. But know that the world needs whatever it is that you're building. Sincerely, so looking forward to seeing that thing exist out in the world.
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. And guys, for you guys in the chat, please drop one of your biggest takeaway or the your most favorite part of the chat into the conversation room for Ryan to see as well. So we'll share that with you, Ryan, afterwards. Their biggest takeaways from our conversation here today.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you. If you'd like to join the Accelerate Collective and attend future campfires, visit accelerateamerica.com/join and check out our future guest at accelerateamerica.com/campfire. Take care.